Hey, everybody. This is Ryan and Greg, and we're here with Bench Your Addiction. And today we're going to continue to talk about more of overcoming life's challenges and what that looks like. And we're going to go ahead and start with you, Greg.
Yeah, so just listening, phenomenal podcast. It's from Muscle Intelligence. It's entitled "On Vice and Virtue." I encourage any man, not anybody, but like any man, because it is more tailored towards the male perspective. Like this conversation is between three guys, and Ben Pekulski out of MI40 Gym in Florida, and then Dr. Jordan Shallow and Killian Hamilton out of Prescript. And one of the things that Ben really was driving home in this podcast, he was talking about how exercise should be a curated obstacle, something that you put in front of yourself and force yourself to overcome, because without obstacles, there is no character development. There is no you'll end up being weak. You'll end up not accomplishing goals. You'll end up being a victim to the things that are going on around you. And um, but like to tie that back into the conversations that we've had in the past, like we need to get on a winning streak, and we need to get like, if for those that haven't won in a long time, we need to start winning at things that we can win right now. And like uh finding finding those hurdles that are relatively low, we'll call it low hanging fruit, and finding those obstacles that we can overcome, but almost guarantee that we can overcome, and we can start to build the confidence in our ability to overcome these challenges. And just um, over time, those obstacles can be bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And like, thing is, like when it comes to running a business, having a family, and like there are so many variables that are potentially outside of your locus of control. You have no control over things that happen when you're dealing in business relationships and you're trying to negotiate and whatever. Like you can't necessarily guarantee success. And so like for those bigger obstacles that are like that, trying to build a business, trying to get into the stock market, trying to build wealth, whatever it is, like that's not necessarily a good entry point to overcoming obstacles. Like overcoming obstacles should start at something like, if you're not active at all, going on a 5 or 10 minute walk in the morning, or like Andrew Huberman talks about, caffeine 90 minutes after you wake up, so that you're like everything that's in your brain, the adenosine receptors, and all that fun geeky stuff that I love to dive into. Like they have an opportunity to calibrate to the day before you start to flood yourself with caffeine, and it really kind of mess you up. But like if you're so accustomed, like I was, if you're so accustomed to rolling out of bed to a cup of coffee or to a pre-workout or to whatever, if you're so accustomed to that, 90 minutes to me, I'll be honest, man, like 90 minutes without caffeine when I wake up, especially when I wake up at 4,
Yeah.
that was freaking
Yeah.
difficult at first, man. It was really, really difficult. But like by being able to utilize basically like program, like time will pass, it'll go, like it'll eventually come time. It turned into like, it went from this struggle, like this fight that I had to endure until that 90-minute mark was up. It turned into the reward. Like I was excited to go about my morning business. I was excited about cooking and then getting to the gym and starting to move around, and like I looked forward to that hit of caffeine later on in the day. And it has worked, man. Like it has worked in my energy levels, and I'm not as dependent upon caffeine to continue to function throughout the day when I adhere to that 90-minute mark. And so just goes to show that people that are smarter than me are onto something.
Yeah, usually, man. I mean, I'm fully aware of my current caffeine level is pretty high, but I'm this lean. I tend to lean a little harder on that caffeine just to get through parts of the hunger. But like talking about overcoming challenges, man, like talk about celebrating wins, right? Like I got 10 years sober as of this weekend officially, right?
Hell yeah, congratulations,
Like
man.
none of these fitness goals and none of these business goals and none of these other goals would have happened without that decision, right? And like without that win. And it really started small, man. It was like the first decision that led to like all that success is I can't blame others for where I'm at. And that was the first thought of like, oh, it's under my control and I can do these things and it's up to me to do this now. And it wasn't the day I got sober, but it was the start of it, right? And
For sure.
so for me, it started with a thought and like, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna control my actions. So what can I do? And Like it started small, we've talked about it before. It started with super small wins, and I worked my way up. And life continues to be challenging, right? Like, you know what I mean? And it doesn't slow me down. I don't let it like, it's like that adage about like if you had $186,000 and someone took 10 of them away, would you throw away the rest of it over that $10? Like, no, you wouldn't. And that's like the equation of how many seconds there are in a day. And so something bad happens to you in the day. Are you going to let that ruin the rest of your day? You're going to move on. And like, that doesn't mean don't have feelings and don't like deal with the thing. It means, you know, acknowledge it, embrace it, and be like, all right, well, that sucked. I won't do that again. That's my mindset now. It's like, well, I could learn from this one. This is ultimately I set myself up for this one, and that's the real answer today. And that's like what allows me to overcome challenges is understanding that I put myself in a situation, so I'm in control and I have power over the situation. And so then it's much easier to be like, all right, well, how do we do better next time, right? And it's been a series of those to where I can get to the point where I'm like, like you talked about getting up at 4 a.m. Like one day I was like, well, I guess we're gonna get up at 4 a.m. and go to the gym now. And like the old me would have thought I was crazy. The old me still thinks I'm crazy. Most of my friends think I'm crazy when I tell them I do that. And I was like, well, it's that or not go to the gym, and that's not acceptable, right? Like, so it's like, you know what I mean? Like, what is acceptable in my life, and what do I need to do? And you make it happen, right? And then like this week's been an interesting challenge because my wife's been out of town, and so it's like, how do I still get to the gym, take care of the kid, get him ready for school, and manage all these things all at the same time? And it's been interesting to say the least. And it's peak week. I got a show in 4 days, 3 days, so it's like this like circus act of like like the spinning plates. I'm like, all right, if I add this over here and this over here, maybe I could make it through here. And even modifying my coach's routine, he's like, all right, here's your routine for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I was like, Tuesday's not an option this week. So what about Sunday, Monday, Wednesday? And he was like, okay, all right, which is really weird for me. I don't think I've worked out on a Sunday in years. It's like my one rest day. I was like, I guess we're doing heavy legs this Sunday to failure, and then still taking the kid to the zoo and doing all the things I'm supposed to do as a dad. And like, it's like, man, like old me would have immediately crumbled once one of these challenges came up. And now it's like, okay, cool, next thing. Okay, cool, next thing. Let's do this next one, And it's really just about a series of like successful wins gives me the confidence to add on more things to successfully win to overcome these next challenges, right? And I think over time you just get better at managing it. Like, I don't think challenges get easier. I think you just get better at managing all of them. I think that's the way I tend to look at it, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's been a lot of managing stress response and like being not like awareness is always the first step. Awareness and acknowledgement is always going to be the entry point. So I have to first be aware that there's a problem. I first have to be aware that my life is completely unmanageable to just continue on. Like, I have to admit like, I have to be willing to admit my powerlessness, right? And like over whatever. And there's so much freedom in that though. There's so much freedom in the awareness because it's like but to tie this into like something that you said earlier is just like learning from the mistakes. There's a just for today reading, and I don't know what day it's for, but like I love it. I love this one where it talks like it referenced the fact that in recovery we're supposed to be making new mistakes.
Yeah.
Right. And so like there needs to be like if I'm making the same mistakes, then obviously there is no change to life. Like I'm not actively changing anything. I'm not changing my habits. I'm not changing my decisions. I'm not changing the progression and the direction of my life, period. I'm not. But if I'm making new mistakes, if I'm because I'll inevitably fumble. Like I'm new to this whole running a business thing, and I've got 1,000 tabs open on my web browser as we're having this conversation, and I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out where to fit my workout. I've already done cardio today, but I'm trying to figure out where to fit my workout in. I had somebody do a drop in, so I've got an appointment now at 3:00, and I was going to do a workout at 2, and then work from 3 to 4:30, and then now I've got an appointment from 3 to 4, and I was like, well, then that means I could do my workout at 2 o'clock. But if I do that, that means that I still have work to do, and I'll have to do it at like 5:30. And I know that my mind isn't that sharp at 5:30. I'm pretty done at five, like by that time. But I can still physically do something at 5:30. So as much as I don't want to push my workout back that far, I do have a non-stimulant pre-workout that is sitting right here. So,
I gotta try that.
um, yeah, it's a non-stim pre-workout because like the last thing I want to do at 5:30 is dump 300 milligrams of caffeine into my system, because then my sleep is going to be crap, and then tomorrow's going to suck, and like
Yep.
all of these things, man. Like same thing. Like I would have been so frustrated a couple years ago and pissed off and not gotten anything done. I would have been like, you know what, screw you. I'm going to take all of my available time. I'm going to take a nap, and then I'm going to do a workout, and then I'll do my client thing, but then I won't do it. I won't accomplish anything else. But I put myself in a position, and my friend Julian says this a lot, is like, I've given myself two options. This either has to work or this has to work. Like I've not put myself in a position where I can back out now. I can't.
Right.
I really can't. And like there will be extreme consequences if I back out now. Like if I don't make something out of this time, there will be extreme consequences that are financial and like longer lasting than anything I could imagine if I don't really try to continue to build the business that I've laid the foundation for. And
No,
um,
right? I feel you on
while
that.
that yeah while that creates a tremendous stress response, this is where I've been working, because I wake up stressed out. Like I said this earlier. I said this in a meeting earlier. Like I'm uncomfortable most of the hours of the day. I am in some level of discomfort for most of my waking hours. And like if only I accomplish enough during the day, then I can have enough peace and solace so that I can fall asleep at night without being super stressed out about how I wasted time today. But I've been doing a lot of prayer around it, and I've been doing a lot of sitting with it. And it's just like instead of running from it, because I used to, like, and especially in today's culture, like you hear stress is the number one killer, and it's just like unmanaged stress is the number one killer. Like an inability to cope with stress, to me, like the way that I think about it, an inability to cope with it, and an inability to release it, and to be able to have some level of control of the autonomic nervous system through breath and other practices. That's what the number one killer is. If you're a pressure cooker and you never release the valve, of course you're going to blow up.
Yep.
Like there has to be some release. So like I've been doing a lot of practice around the fact that I feel really uncomfortable, and I've got so many different things and that are like spinning plates, as you've referenced a couple of times, and I like that analogy. Is just like I don't feel like I have enough limbs for all of the plates that I'm attempting to spin, but for some reason they're all still up in the air, so I better figure it out.
Yeah, man, that's a good way to put it. So, it's like I forget who says it, but get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Like if you want to succeed in life, especially nowadays, like you're gonna have to get uncomfortable being uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right? Or get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it's it's like what you said, man. Like I was talking to a friend about again having 10 years, and they're like, I hope you found the ability to forgive yourself, and like all the things that you did in your life and your past self and all this stuff. And I was like, well, most days I do. On the days I don't, I'm in the gym because like that's what I need, right? You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's my stress response, right? Like, and I agree with you, man. There's plenty of things like this is like our current society level, especially as like a small business owner, dictates that you're going to be stressed out about everything, and everything's going to be preying on it. Like, here's this thing to help you on your way to stress release. This, here's this thing to sell you. Hey, you want to hop on a call? Hey, here's this person. Hey, do you have time for me? Hey, can we change my schedule? It's like, sure, right? You know what I mean? Then you add more things to the mix, and then taking care of yourself in there. It's like, man, right? And like you said, it's not that I'm magically not stressed, or I'm magically some guru who's like super disciplined, who's like, I enjoy going to the gym at 4 a.m. It's like, no, man, I have to succeed. And having to succeed means going to the gym, and having to run a business means working long hours. And that means I'm getting up at 4. It's not like I'm some magic person who's like, yeah, this is fun. I'm like, cool, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, while I love the process and I love the journey, that like my alarm goes off in the morning, I'm not like, yay, let's go. Jumping out of bed, singing sunshines. No, man, I'm like, I'm telling myself affirmations, right? But that's more like I'm going to do this. I'm successful. I'm grateful, right? Like I'm grateful for this body. I say that shit to myself every day, especially when I don't want to be. And like that's how I kind of reframe it for me.
For
And
sure.
it's it's like you said, man. We can't be making the same mistakes. If we're making new mistakes, that's good, man. And like I talked to this about some of my clients, but like I'm a firm believer that failure is good for the soul because it lets you learn like your limits and lets you learn how to adapt and get better. If you're living this like life of comfort and things aren't challenging, like you're not growing. You can't grow when you're not being challenged, right? Like that's how life works. That's how humans work. That's how everything works, right? If it's not being challenged to change, it's not going to change, right? So I mean, I like splashing. First thing I do in the morning is splash cold water on my face to like get charged and get waking up and like kind of that stoicism belief of like learning to live a comfortably everyday life and living without comforts for periods of time is sometimes better for you because you can learn more from it. And what does that mean in everyday life for everybody? I don't know. It's going to look different for everybody, but if you can be comfortable being uncomfortable, then there's not much life can throw at you that's going to set you off in a bad way, right? And it's really the people that struggle with any big change that have the bigger problems in life, especially as stress comes up. And like shitty things happen. Like my dad passed this year and it was hard. And it was like a week after my birthday, I got home from a birthday trip and I got the phone call like literally like 2 days later. I was like, oh. So I went from this like great high to this great low and like processing that's been hard, right? But like, did that mean I could like stop doing any things about running my business or stop being like a dad myself or stop, getting ready for the show I was getting ready for at the current time? Like, no, it just meant that I had to process that in my own time and continue to deal with life as it came at me.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone, including somebody yesterday, I was like, I don't always wear tank tops, and I have a tattoo that's on my upper right arm, and it's Atlas, and and the original tattoo idea that I saw, it had some, I didn't even really understand what was written on it, quite honestly, so I don't remember what it said, but the story of Atlas, for those that want to geek out on Greek for a second, the story of Atlas, of course, gods and titans were fighting with each other. Gods won, titans lost. Atlas was a titan. Atlas was sentenced with holding the cosmos for eternity. And as the story goes, Atlas pleaded with Zeus. So Atlas pleaded with the guy that was his judge, jury, and executioner and he didn't ask for a lighter load. He asked for broader shoulders. Like that's how the story goes. Like Atlas didn't ask Zeus to make this easier. He asked for broader shoulders with which he could better bear the load that he was going to have to bear for the rest of eternity. And like, so people see my tattoo and it says ask for broader shoulders, and they're like, haha, gym rat asking for broader shoulders. And it's like they miss the point.
Yeah.
Because they don't go that far into it. They don't, and they also just think it's some superficial joke that I put on my arm. It's just like I have two tattoos that have a whole lot of meaning to me personally, right? And so asking for broader shoulders, like it's not praying for an easy life. It's praying for the strength to endure a hard one. Because like I said again earlier this week, I said this is just like, I want to be reliable. I want to be someone that people can call on, someone that people can lean on when they need it. I look around at this culture and it's not like I'm not blaming any single individual person. It just seems to be the system that we've found ourselves in. We have a weak culture. We have like, this is just my personal belief, and it's something that I'm wrestling with. It's just like, you can get anything that you want delivered to your door, probably same day. You can go. You don't have to do any hunting. You don't have to do anything difficult anymore. All you're having to do is live your life, and you get paid. And like, it's crazy to me because like I'm like, one of the biggest fears that I have is that I'm going to breed weakness. That I'm going to bring, because me and my fiance have talked about bringing like having a family, and like the biggest thing that I fear is that we could, like, I bring a child into this life and like God forbid I relapse or something, and then I'm weak. And children are so impressionable. And and they see me not doing cardiovascular conditioning, or they see me not lifting weights, or they see me not trying to provide for my family or like provide for them. Because like children are so impressionable that they'll pick up on those subtle things that you're doing on the daily. And if you don't know that, then work with kids or have your own. I don't have my own, but I've worked with kids for a long time, and they're paying attention when you think they're not. They're paying attention when you're not paying attention.
Yes.
And they pick up on these things. And it like that's one of the biggest fears that I have, is that I don't set the example properly, and my children pick up, and they fall prey to the culture that's around us. They don't pay attention to the like a household figure, because there is no strong household figure, so they fall prey to the culture that's around them. And I quite frankly don't like it. I don't like what I see happening around me most of the time.
It is very interesting and introspective now being a parent and living through that. And my kid's at the young impressionable age, so he's 6 now, and there's a lot of things that like I'll catch him doing, and what normal society or even my wife might even say, she'd be like, "Oh, that's dangerous. He should stop." And I'll be like, "He's obviously already doing this. Let's figure this out, right?" You know what I mean? And like I promote
Yeah.
him like figuring out and learning things and challenging himself. Like he had set up this experiment where like there's a beanbag in the living room, and he was jumping from the top of the couch across the living room, hitting the beanbag and then launching something. And it was like he'd obviously been doing this for a while by the time I walked in the room, and I realized that most parents' reaction would be like, "Stop! You're gonna hurt yourself." I got my camera out. I was like, "All right, man, we're already doing this. Come on, let's do this." You know what I mean? And it's like the best video. He does it, and he jumps. He probably jumps like a good 10 feet. It's pretty high for a 6-year-old, and then hits it, and then launches the thing, and he just yells, "Science!" And I was like, "That is the best thing ever." I sent my wife the video. She was like, "What were you letting him do?" I was like, "Letting him? He was already doing it. Whatever, man."
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, but same thing, man. Like, I want to be that role model for my dad or for my son, right? And last night he came on a run with me. When we go to the park, he wants to do pull-ups, right? He like his teacher last year sent me a video of him doing exercise classes, and like my friend made a point of making a point to me that it might have been some of those kids' first experience with exercise, right? I was so happy for him to come see me on stage and do my show at my last show, right? Even if he didn't really quite get it and got bored about halfway through, he was excited to see me and excited to see that I put in the work. And like, how do you create a life where your children are taken care of, but also challenged, right? Like, and so that's that like dichotomy of where we need to be. And I think everybody should be challenged more. I think if you don't understand, like for me, the big concept is suffer or suffer, right? Like regardless, you're going to suffer, right? Like, and I used to make a lot of easy choices, and I had a pretty hard life, right? Like I was overweight, I was a drug addict, I was, did all these things at the time, like, oh, I'll just make the easier, softer choice. And like, oh man, like, and then I had a really hard life. Now I make all the hard choices, and the rest of my life's really easy, right? And so,
Yeah.
if you want to suffer in the gym, or you want to suffer because you're out of shape, like that's up to you, but it's a choice, And I think society takes a lot of our choices away nowadays, and that's unfortunate.
So I mean, like the way that she just said that, like I'm gonna slightly disagree with how
Okay.
you phrased it. And it's just like you said that it takes our choices away. It doesn't take. I don't believe that it takes our choices away. It makes it incredibly easy to make what you and I would both consider the wrong decisions. But both of us have the choice to have a business. Both of us have the choice to be fit, to be active, to get sun, to go on walks, to grow families. To like, we both have the choice, and both of us are pursuing those choices. Like, if you live in a free country, you have all of those. Like, everyone listening to this and beyond has access to those same choices. But it's this comes back to, like, if you have the choice, then you need to make the proper choice. You need to make the right choice, and that right choice is going to be slightly different per the person. But like, one of the things that I realized earlier this week, what is today? Today's Tuesday, so I guess it was actually on Saturday, not early, maybe whatever, whenever your week starts. But like, so a couple days ago, I had this realization when I was on the Stairmaster. Is like I've said this on this podcast, and I've said this in other conversations, like that in the absence of powerlifting, I was looking for something hard. So I was doing cardio and trying to nasal breathe and do whatever I was doing, and um and I had this realization while I was doing cardio that day, a couple of days ago, that the reason I wanted to do that so desperately, when in the past, like not too distant past either, I claimed it to hate cardio, and I don't like running and whatever. I was doing that cardio session a couple of days ago because I realized that I have control over some choices that are going to allow me, or at least give me, a greater opportunity to live longer. And like I'm in the position right now where I'm talking about starting a family, and like we're starting these conversations, and um I can't guarantee that I'll live longer, but there are decisions that I can make right now that give me a better chance to live longer. And not only to live longer, but to your point, you never want somebody to help you off the toilet event, like at some point down the line. Like um I don't like I want to be the role model. Of course I want my children to be better than me, but like I want to be the role model and allow them to have, stand on the shoulders of giants kind of concept, and empower them to do anything and everything, and set the example. Because like for me, my household, while I was growing up, my parents weren't necessarily that active physically. They were providing for us, but they weren't that active physically. But my mom insisted, because my mom has always struggled with her weight. She was bullied when she went through school, and she's always and but she insisted that my sister and I find a sport. It didn't matter what sport. She didn't care which sport. She was just like, find one. And we like, my sister and I both ended up doing a lot of different sports. We ended up both not settling, but settling on swimming. And swimming took us, like, both of us went to college on scholarship for our athletics. And my mom wanted us to find something that we enjoyed. She never pressured us to do something that we hated to do. Like, we got to choose the sport that we got to do. But like, as soon as we made that sport, this is where my dad swoops in and is like, do whatever you want to do, but be your best version at the thing you're doing. Right. So my mom encouraged whatever type of enthusiasm and excitement. And then my dad encouraged, like, whatever you're doing, do your best.
Good.
And
Wow.
like, if you've not had those habits in place, and you already have a family, or if you've not had that, and you're trying to, and you don't know where to start, like, I get it, man. My heart really goes out to you. It's not that I'm not empathetic to those that are really want to make changes, but they struggle with it, or they don't know where they're going, or they don't know how to start. Like, I'm not trying to sound or come across in any level pompous, but to your point earlier, Ryan, like, uh, everything is going to be difficult. It's just a matter of which difficult you're choosing to endure. Being fat is difficult. Being lean is difficult. Pick. Being rich is difficult. Being poor is difficult. Pick. It's just habits. If you tie it back into the habits, then like your habits will dictate your outcome, period. Right. And so none of your habits are going to be that easy, especially when you're first trying to put them into place. But you need to do it anyway, because there are people that rely on you. This is how I speak to myself. It's just like, I don't care what your motivation is. Like, some people say you need to get clean for you. And I think that's important, that you have a desire to get clean for you. But like, that's not always my primary motivation. Sometimes it's my fiance. Sometimes it's my family. Sometimes it's the fact that I just hate myself, whatever. It's just like, quite honestly. And so
Yeah.
your motivation is fluid, man. I don't give a shit what gets you moving and if it changes or not, but do it. Do it.
Yeah. Just do it. I think that's where we're going to close there, man. I totally agree with what you're saying, that like you need to make a choice. It's up to you to make a choice. And so, and what that looks like is going to differ for everybody. And so next week, I think we'll talk about what showing up looks like and what that can mean to you. And I think it goes without saying that both of us care about helping others. That's why we are trainers, because we want to help others, right? people have different motivations for being trainers, but I feel like mostly at their heart, it's to help others change. So I think we'll talk about showing up next week. You got anything else?
That's it, man.
All right, man. See you all next week. Make a choice.